Hello everybody, I'm Dr. Patrick Flynn. Welcome to another one of the Wellness Way Quick Tips, our Secrets Revealed series. Today is kind of really exciting because what we have today is reading labels. Now, we have the holidays coming up here quite soon, and even if you don't even read this and see this video until about 6 months from now, my venture, even being a doc, going back to college, was all about actually, reading labels and understanding what is going into my body. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of give you some cool secrets, and especially the last thing at the end. So hang there to this video to the end because it's really quite interesting to what I have done over the last 5 years, and I'm excited to show you my last slide here, and because it's going to kind of gross you out a little bit, that's why I think I'm so excited about it, because I'm a guy, okay? So, secrets revealed. So here's the big thing. The key is reading food labels, okay? Now, it's quite interesting because I want you to think about this. If you want to avoid reading food labels, eat fresh foods. If you have an apple in a bag, guess what happens? You don't have to do a food label reading, because why? Because you have fresh foods. You don't have to look at apple. There you go. And see, we have to start there. Understanding reading labels, for example, only become a issue when you start to process foods. Any food processed, regardless if it's organic or not, is still that, processed. And therefore, to preserve and do things that way, there's additives and things that most food companies have put in there, okay? So understand, if you want to avoid food labeling, step number one, go back to just fresh foods. The majority of foods that we eat in my family are fresh foods. Now, here's one thing. What does that do? That means this: you have to shop more. There is no doubt. Honestly, when you eat fresh that way, you got to probably go to the grocery store every two or 3 days, all right? So just understand that reading labels is important if you don't want to do that, because you can have some extremely healthy products that are there, but there's also some extremely unhealthy products that have certain ingredients in, and that's what we want to cover today. So number one, added sweeteners. If you ever want to start anywhere, it's right there, okay? Because I can honestly tell you, when I was going through all of my education, and I was writing my thesis and stuff like that for my master's program, artificial sweeteners were my biggest, investigation. I think that's why I started with it. Because honestly, the toxic effects of these things are just crazy. Do you understand, if you go and actually look at how they're classified, they're actually listed as neurotoxins. Who said so? They did. That's why if you look, for example, there's a lot of contraindications of having some artificial sweetener if you have a neurological disease. Let me give you an example. If you have MS and have artificial sweetener, it can exacerbate massive neurological things, okay? And they list it as a neurotoxin that way. That's kind of scary. And it's legal, okay? Now, here's the funny part, because what I did is I actually went back and decided to actually pull some things that we all know about if you're over 30 years old. When you look at some of the artificial sweeteners that are out there, one of the biggest ones that we always had was Sweet and Low. Remember that when we were kids? You'd go to the restaurant and you'd grab all the packets there, Sweet and Low. And it was kind of funny because, do you remember what it used to say on the back of it? It says right here, the use of this product may be hazardous to your health. The use of this product may be hazardous to your health. Now, how can they do it? Because once again, food is not about actually its quality. If you think about it this way, food is now turned in more to speed and convenience than quality. So guess what? They're allowed to sell this. Second of all, this product, which has been determined to cause cancer in laboratory animals. Think about that. They list it on there. How did they get it off? It's called lobbying and food writing with the FDA. They didn't take it off because it's changed. They didn't take it off because that still doesn't happen. What happens is they lobbied for that to get off, and that's kind of crazy that we're allowed to actually do those things and still put them in the public, and it leaves the public ignorant, okay? And they said, if the FDA approved it, guys, listen, the FDA is not a good organization, okay? That's what people say. The FDA approved vaccines. FDA has patents on vaccines. That excludes them from anything that way. The FDA makes a ton of money on all these things. So just understand, when people say FDA approved, it means nothing to me. Anybody tells you that things FDA approved, actually, guess what? Run, okay? Because it's not a good thing. So the idea is this is what happens to artificial sweeteners. There's so many of them. Actually, if you look, even some of the major sweeteners today, they start to change the names. Why do they change them? Because of the internet. I'll tell you right now, the greatest thing that you can do right now is stop this video, Jump on, look at the history. The internet, actually, if you ever notice, most doctors don't like the internet because why? Because you don't have to believe them anymore. You don't have to believe one word I say. Stop the video, take a look at history, look at what it talks about neurotoxic effects of, all the artificial sweeteners, and just see what it does, okay? So this is very key. So you want to stay away from these things. So even as you're going into the holidays, here, let me see a question. They're both bad, but what's better for you? An artificial sweetener or just processed sugar? Actually, by far, processed sugar. Now, I don't want you to justify processed sugar because that's not good either. But it's better for you than artificial sweetener. The question I always say to people at my inflammation talks is, would you rather have a artificial sweetener or a diet soda or regular soda? Everybody says regular. And I say, well, they're both bad for you. But if you compare the two, I would definitely choose a regular soda and all the sugar over the artificial ones that way. Now, once again, let me say this because I know it's going to happen. People say, Dr. Patrick said it's okay to have soda. No, it's not, okay? Don't have soda. There's great alternatives to them at every grocery store that way. Don't be drinking a Coke and think that Dr. Patrick approved this, okay? Because I did not, all right? Next, here we go. Flavor enhancers. Now, why? Why are flavor enhancers put in there? The most common one is MSG, monosodium glutamate that way. Actually, think about this. Look at the name itself. MSG, monosodium glutamate. Glutamate is a synthetic neurotransmitter with MSG that they do. Glutamate itself is actually a normal neurotransmitter. It actually is the most excitatory neurotransmitter. Well, see what happens is when you take a food and you process it, it loses its flavor. It really does. It's heated, it's changed, it's dried, it's dehydrated, and it loses a lot of its flavor. So they have to stick things back in to actually make your brain go, I like this. Because most processed food tastes very bland. Most processed food sometimes even tastes bad. So they add flavor enhancers, which is nothing more than a brain trick. Okay? Now I put brain trick up here, trick your body into wanting more, because here's what happens. Anything that's stimulatory, anything that gets us excited, once again, our body will want more of it that way. It's how they create addictions to food that way, is by adding MSGs in there. Heck, MSGs, once again, this does a nasty thing to our neurological system. It's so stimulatory, actually you gotta be careful if you have seizures. Think about that. Not that MSG causes seizures, but the idea is the fact that if you have seizures and actually have it, it's kind of contraindicated because it can stimulate the brain too much. Heck, any kid, I mean, think of it this way. If you decide to take the average cereal that people do in the morning and give to their kids and send them off to school, you might as well actually give that child a loaded gun to his brain. Because why? It's so stimulatory to him. And then they say, here, teachers, take care of my kids. And then they wonder why they're jumping out of their shorts and can't sit down. And then the teacher says, let's drug them even more. Okay? Not that all teachers say that. Don't email me. I don't want to hear your rebuttal that you're a better teacher, which happened before. But the idea is this. Just understand. Giving these kids these cereals in the morning with all these major enhancers stimulates their brain like crazy. Don't do it. Okay? But once again, it will actually list them. Monosodium glutamate, hydrolyzed soy protein, all these things, they're on here that way, okay? I put all the labels on there so that you can then write them down. We'll list them below for you. Number 3, color additives. Now it's interesting. Pull out a pretty crazy stat. In the last 50 years, synthetic food dyes, think about this, not natural color enhancers that way, but actually synthetic food dyes have increased 500%. Why? Processing food changes its color. Do you know that most processed foods is actually brown and white? Think about that this way. It lost all its color. Because as you process it, they have to add color back into there. So they add food dyes, which are very neurologically bad. Now think about this. I've talked about 3 things, and we talked about neurologically bad. Think about it. And the kids are the mainly stuff that are getting this. And so therefore, we wonder why our kids have so many attention problems. We wonder why, for example, there's so many neurological diseases going on that way. We can't keep on bombarding our system like this and expect it to do okay. So watch out for those dyes. They list them, no joke, as poisons. Okay? Once again, how is this legal? It's called money. Your food companies actually allow it because why? They pay off your politicians to allow it to be legal. This should be illegal, guys. But you know what? You know how you don't have to worry about any of this? Eat fresh food. That's the cool part. Do it yourself. See, I always tell people, this video can mean absolutely nothing to you if you go back to fresh foods. That's the cool part. But everybody wants to get into speed and actually look what they can do to actually, make things more convenient that way. Go back to fresh foods. But I always tell people always say this, it's kind of funny, Nancy. Isn't it funny how people are like, Doc, I don't have time for good food. How quickly does it take to run into a refrigerator and grab an apple? Honestly, you understand? It's really funny, but they actually come up with excuses that way. No, they wanted some processed cookie or something like that, okay? And so, of course, it takes time to make cookies. They're even organic and good for you. But the idea is this, see, so it comes back to speed that way. But actually going back to whole foods you can take with you is much better. Now, another one, added nutrients. See, it's interesting because it's kind of, they process something. They fortify, look at those, the bleached breads and all of that. They actually extract nutrients, and it's hilarious because they take it back and they add it back into things that way. So added nutrients, for example, are actually crazy. You'll see that mainly during the what? During the bread products that way, okay? Fortified products, processed, depleted, so they have to add nutrients back in to even make it even look healthy that way. That's why you see all these fractions that are there, okay? Once again, stay away from these things. They're quite devastating to you. Now, why should you stay away from them? It's really funny. Today, if you went to the store and there's an organic apple there, and there was a worm coming out of there, everybody would be grossed out. Let me tell you today's revealed secret. I would eat it, and I'd let my kids and my wife eat it too. Why? Because here's the funny part. Let's take a look at my final slide. So what I did is I went to McDonald's. Okay, and I bought back in March of 2010 some burgers, April 2011, and actually December of 2011 also. And what I did, I actually put Burger King at the end because people say, well, just pick it on McDonald's. Well, I started to do all of them that way. And what happened is this. People actually come into the office and they look at this slide. They actually look at the slide and say, Doc, why didn't it rot? Because the bugs are smarter than you are. Think about that. The bugs look at it and go, heck no, I'm not touching this stuff. But you do. You understand? We think microbes are lower organisms. They're smart. They're chemically sensitive. They can't touch this. This would kill them. So it's not going to mold because they didn't want it. Going back to that organic apple that's sitting at the grocery store with the worm in it. The worm was smart. But what he did, he went for the good stuff. So guess what? If a worm wouldn't eat it or a bug wouldn't eat it, why would you? Why would you? Why would you give it to your kids? Okay? We just got over Halloween. I can imagine how people actually just stuck all these food dyes, food additives, MSGs, all these artificial flavors and colorants in it that way. And guess what? No bug would even eat that. No bug would eat McDonald's, would eat the Burger King. It's kind of funny. Get this. So actually had a Packer player come in for care. They actually came in and actually they saw this. And it was hilarious. The reason why we actually had to add Taco Bell up there is because what ended up happening was the wife called me back and said, Doc, he saw that. He used to eat McDonald's every day and he stopped because he realized if it doesn't spoil, it's not a good thing. So you have to go get Taco Bell because he figured since McDonald's and Burger King were bad, he was just going to go to Taco Bell instead. I kid you not, that's exactly what happened. So I had to go get some Taco Bell and put up there, and guess what? It didn't rot either. The bugs did not want to touch this. Please, you don't either, okay? So thank you so much for enjoying today's Wellness Way quick tip that way. I appreciate as the holidays come up. Remember, go back to your good foods. Go back to your whole foods that way. When you actually eat whole foods, you don't have to worry about reading labels because once again, what you see is what you get there. My name is Dr. Patrick Flynn, the Hormone Whisperer. Thank you so much. Check out always our next quick tip for you. Have a wonderful day.